Good.
Okay, I'm gonna get going here, assuming the other two. Okay, well, before we begin our regular meeting, I would like to, we did table the public hearing for Mission Hills Developer LLC. I would like to have a motion, please, to reconvene the public hearing for Mission Hills. Thank you, Bob. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
And the public hearing is now open for Mission Hills Developer. There was the one open item that was discussed on Monday was a question that one of the members had presented. And I did send an email to the town attorney and also to the director of community development with Mr. Christopher Hall. And I explained that the entity has submitted an application for IDA incentives for a 55-unit multifamily senior project in the town of Hamburg. Question raised in the public hearing about whether or not this is subject to the law. So the law I'm referencing is the inclusionary zoning law. Welcome, Davis. Will the rule be enforced on the project? I would like to respond to this question at our public hearing. So this was sent to the town attorney and also community development. Essentially, to further explain, the public housing law requires that multifamily projects, I believe it's 10 or more units, 1% of the, or I'm sorry, 10% of those units need to be available to low to moderate income individuals or families residing in the town of Hamburg. So I posed that question. The town attorney had wrote back, I think it will absolutely be enforced. If you are on Zoom, can you just please mute? Thank you. I think it will, I'm sorry, I'll restart that sentence. I think it will absolutely be enforced. I've seen Chris Hull and Mark Walling to loop them in. So the next response I received was from Chris Hull, and he said there is no opinion. It is a town of Hamburg law, which is intended to ensure affordable housing within newly built rental properties. And then he had copied and pasted the statute below the email. So, so effectively, that is the response I have gotten on that.
Hey, Sean.
Yes.
Hey, Jennifer, if I may dip into your legal expertise, are the words "I think it will be" legal jargon?
Well, I think it's a pretty flimsy opinion. But
Thank
the
you.
attorney may not have enough facts about the project before him to give us our legal opinion.
Thank you.
Janet, I'm gonna recap for you. I just saw.
I read everything you sent.
Oh, okay, okay. So, yeah, that's what I was just explaining, trying to identify and provide an answer best I can to the board. Obviously, it's, not within, my purview. It's more of a town of Hamburg matter, but try to do the best I could to get an answer on that.
Well, just as an aside, when the resolution comes forth, I will either ask to table until we have a concise opinion written by our town attorneys, not, I think, but give them time to understand the law, or we need a signed guarantee from the developer that they will follow.
Okay.
And that if they don't, we can call back
Okay.
any incentives that they are given.
Is that not implied?
Well, there was, the other day, they didn't think they had to do it. The town community development officer, who is in charge of the fair housing and the inclusionary housing, says, yes, they do. You have attorneys. That's a problem with town attorneys being appointed every 4 years. They may not have been there when that code was adopted. So they're shooting from the hip instead of reading the code, with no disrespect.
part of the issue goes back to when the project was planned out, approved versus the construction time of the project being different. So there was some question is, the law came in between the time with the entire project was approved and now the final phase being developed.
But
And
the
did-
intent
yeah.
of the law is when the
What-
building
right.
permit is issued for the particular phase. I had to talk to Chris and Tim both yesterday because our CDBG project was approved Monday night by the board
Nice.
and it's both their opinions. And they were, I mean, Chris was instrumental in the drafting of the provision of town law. Or town code. Town laws by state.
Any other questions or comments at this time? We can further discuss it in the question session if the resolution is moved.
So you need a motion to close the.
Yes.
I thought that was already done, motion, or no, we
Oh, we
opened it,
reconvened
and
it.
now we need to.
Yeah.
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close public hearing, Mission Hills Developer LLC, 7:36. First move by Mr. Reynolds,
Second.
second by Mr. Hall, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the public hearing for Mission Hills Developer LLC is closed. All right, welcome to August 17th, 2022 Hamburg IDA regular board meeting. First, I would like to take roll call, please. Hall,
Present.
Hutchison, here, McGregor, Flar,
Here,
Moses, Palmer,
Here,
Perkins,
Here.
Mikulski,
Here.
Reynolds,
Here.
and Valentin is excused. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Motion to open the August 17th, 2022 Hamburg, New York IDA Board of Directors meeting at 7:37 a.m.
So moved.
Thank you,
Second.
Mayor. Thank you, Janet. First item on the agenda is a motion to approve the minutes from July 2022.
Second.
Thank you, Jamel. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Next is the financial report from July 31st, 2022. Mr. Reynolds?
Good morning, everyone. If you look at your report out there, I just want to point out that really nothing extraordinary happened this month other than our normal expenses. But we did have an income of $265 on our interest-bearing accounts. Our payroll and processing benefits and tax liabilities was $10,345.17. We did do a legal fee this month for $500. And we did have a subscription. Use my language, $134.98. So our net income was a negative $11,068.96. So that took our total down to $979,284.32. I see nothing else, any other problems, so I motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. Second?
second.
Thank you, Janet. Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, on to my director report. Just some updates on closings. Jennifer is still working diligently on key energy. The document flow is happening. It's a more
It's a draft.
trickle than a flow. We have reminded the project applicant operator several times. The expiration date is September 2022. So they're aware of that and they really need to move forward. But that represents a substantial amount of receivables for the agency. Johnson's Brew House, KH, they're progressing. There's shovels in the ground, there's activity, there are foundations going in. So those projects are moving along, which is great. We still need to move towards project closing on these ends with financing. I will jump ahead, the Johnson's Brew House project through the Hamburg Development Corporation, we did work with them to achieve $100,000 10-year term loan for the Hamburg Development Corporation to support the project. That will be, we're lending funds for kitchen equipment. And, you know, there is a reminder, there is an employment requirement from that, obtaining that loan. But with the IDA application and that funding, there's going to be a lot of employment provided at that site. So we're just looking forward to that operation. According to the developer, spring 2023 is the planned open date. So fingers crossed. Next, we have some project activity. So that is reemerging and becoming more active, which is optimistic. We're still working with potential for 100,000 square foot warehouse. A local manufacturer is seeking to build a operation in Hamburg. I believe that this operator did receive seeker approval. They have site plan approval. I spoke with them and ran financial pro formas on the potential incentives and how we can support the project and employment. And they, you know, the last they had mentioned, they will be submitting an application. Another local manufacturer is purchasing a new building. They did not seek the incentive, just coupled with the investment in the project. There just wasn't enough investment there to really leverage an increase in taxable value, which is what we, you know, that we look at. So if they're not increasing taxable value, there's generally not a definite role from the IDA. Talks to our other economic tools, but they haven't taken advantage of them as of yet. Not too much on the advocacy legislative side, but I did attend the Red Fish dedication event at the former Wanaka pump station, and that was really exciting. It was a really nice event, a beautiful day, nice amenity down by UBOB. Assemblyman Ryan, or Senator Ryan was there, Assemblyman Rivera, the town supervisor, some town board members. Ms. Kesner was there as well. So it was nice to see them and introduce that to the community. A couple monthly look ahead items, a few. September 21st, 7:30 is our next board meeting. August 24th at 4 o'clock is the Pitch Hamburg grand opening for the Startup Incubator project in Hamburg. Our startup competition was introduced Monday at our open house. So applications are now active. So we are seeking and accepting applications for clients to become a part of the Startup Incubator Pitch Hamburg. So we're marketing that.
What are, in a sentence, what are the criteria to qualify?
The criteria are a new business without a physical operation in the town. So it's fairly vague.
How far along does an idea need to be?
It doesn't need to be. I mean, we will work with companies. One was referred by the mayor of Blaisdell. This person had no corporate organization, no financing.
So you don't need a business plan or anything necessarily.
No, we will work with them from the ground up. You know, and if they do have corporate formation and they have some organization to the company, that is okay. But if they have a physical plant, if they have probably more than 3 employees, they wouldn't be suitable by virtue of, you know, the services that we will provide and also our space. We don't have a lot of space there. So we need to be able to site these companies in a manner that will be productive for them. So
Thank you.
and I will work with, you know, through Dr. Cordell and Dr. Switek. I met him yesterday at the Redfish just to talk about promoting the program amongst the area high schools. Because there are some good maker programs there, and certainly those students may be eligible and be able to benefit. September 10th is the event at Hilbert College, and September 28th at Woodlawn Beach at the Lodge. We're having a joint event with the Chamber of Commerce. This is shaping up to be a nice event, and I think it will be productive for the community. Our panel of speakers will include Andy DeVincentis from Walden Development, not you, Andy.
Sure, follow.
Nina Becker, leasing director for the Cohan Realty Group. And Bob Johnson with Johnson's Brew House, and Chuck Clark, who will speak to a project or two in Lackawanna. So Walden Development will be talking more so along the lines of commercial and industrial developments in Hamburg. Nina will be talking about the current situation at the McKinley Mall and the path forward with Cohan and the redevelopment of the site. Johnson will be talking about his, I think originally it was 3 million, it's probably $4 or $5 million brewery project. And as I had mentioned, Chuck will be talking about a project or two in the city of Lackawanna. So it's going to be about 15, 20-minute panel presentation, and then just a lot of networking. Certainly IDA board members, chamber members, and then members of the commercial real estate community and investors are all going to be invited to that event.
Are we gonna get an invite on that?
Yeah,
Mary's,
I'll make sure you get
Mary's
it.
very good at that, so
So we'll get that off.
I'm an idiot, I forget it, so.
And some, just running through some meetings. Yeah, just regular kind of update things. That the most impressive was an SBA luncheon with Frank Sortino. If you don't know Frank, he still continues at 86 years old. Been involved as the Buffalo area director of the SBA. And it was an impressive luncheon of about 20 people or more. And they were all very well-to-do people, probably some of the wealthiest people in our community and prominent people. And it was interesting to see that, 40 years ago or so, Frank had established, relationships with these people and supported them through SBA loans. And to see them in their financial positions today and the amount of employment that they generate. So it was kind of cool to see over this man's, 40 to 50 year history, the developments that he had raised. Jonathan with Buffalo News is in the crowd. It'd be, I think, a great story to talk about some of the companies that he has supported from day one, opening up a pizza kitchen to turn it into the establishment like Picasso's Pizza or Latino Foods. It was very impressive. So it was a neat luncheon. And for me, it provided a lot of inspiration for what we do and the relationships and the business development that we drive in Hamburg.
Sean?
Yeah.
On that note, I have today to ask you, and this just correlates. The SBA, through the SBA and the federal government, hub zones can be set up. And I know Andy is familiar with hub zones. Lackawanna, for instance, is a hub zone, which businesses located in a hub zone have the opportunity to bid on or have points when they bid on a project that will put them above other bidders. Is that kind of I've read a little bit on it on the SBA's website, but we've been approached asking why aren't Blaisdell and Hamburg in the village of Hamburg and a hub zone? And I said, I will bring that up at our next IDA meeting, because it would seem to me that the IDA or the town on behalf of both of its villages would be the folks to pursue that. They're the bigger entity. They have more juice than we.
What were the criteria for a hub zone?
And there, it's on the SBA website. It's something that has to be applied for, and then you're in for 5 years. You have to reapply after 5 years. But your businesses located in a hub zone have better opportunity when bidding public projects and federal projects.
Okay.
So if I may dovetail on it, so my experience with the Corps of Engineers, there's a certain amount, so all federal projects, and then there's a certain amount which is called set aside. They're set aside, they have to be set aside per law for equal opportunities, disabled veterans, and there's I think 5 of them these categories of opportunities for people outside of big business. One of them is hub zone qualified, so. I think there's certain demographic, social economic, that's a better word. Criteria for it, but I would think, given our proximity, at least here in the village of Blaisdell, and probably half of Hamburg would be. In there.
Potentially eligible. Okay.
So maybe that's something, if you can reach out to Frank again and say, hey, our IDA, this came up at a meeting.
Yeah.
One, would we be eligible? And then what would we need to do?
Okay.
But I mean, there's a lot on the website, on the
There's a
SBA
ton.
Does it
website.
follow like census tracts or so? You said there's-
I would have to imagine.
Or how does it, I guess, delineate?
It's right, there's a map right on the SBA site. Like whole counties are hub zones, right? Like Chautauqua County.
Okay. And potentially, what I will do, I'll take it as an action item. Let me go back and do some research, if that's okay, and bring it. Because if sometimes bordering on communities that may be eligible also allow you. I mean, the Boulevard Mall achieves some economic designation, that area of Amherst. So sometimes you have to dive into these opportunities a little bit more, and you may not essentially be eligible, but I'll do internet research, and then I'll talk with the director or appropriate staff at the SBA report back next month.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I just think any way we can help
Sure,
some of
certainly.
these smaller businesses who might not be IDA eligible, were already established,
Mhm,
we can give them a leg up.
no doubt.
It's actually a pretty good website for a government website.
There's a lot.
Don't worry, it costs 5 times more than anything else.
Okay, any questions on my report? Continuing on with new business. I have an update on Amazon that I will talk about. I know it has been a number of members and myself have been asked on the progress of the project, so I'd like to report on that. So if you remember correctly, and to update you, Mel, this project was designed with a co-applicant. So Bayview Road Associates is the developer. They are owned by Walden Development Group. Bayview Road Associates is the landlord, so they own and develop the site there. The co-applicant is Amazon.com Services LLC, and they are leasing the site. So, the obligations of the Bayview Road Associates are, as the developer, are obviously to develop the core and shell of the building and maintain, within the terms of their lease, occupancy conditions for their tenant. So that's a little bit of background. The project, as it was approved just about a year ago, the core and shell of the building is now complete. To date, the project is in full compliance with IDA policy and state law governing IDAs. And to clarify, Amazon has until March 2024 to reach their job quota. And this is not something, a special exception that was done. This is standard for our project approval, that a project operator in the project agent agreement has 2 years from project approval. There has been $13,460,603 in construction wages paid to Western New York families. So that's within the local labor market. The developer, through their project reporting, their quarterly local labor reporting, has reported 84,000 hours of labor within the local labor market. There were union trades involved with the construction, concrete, iron workers, carpenters, and general laborers. The total investment in the project, so from the developer to the town or in the town and throughout the community, has been $14,205,745. Through the mechanism of the IDA and the application of benefits, the project has received benefits expensed in the amount of $1,567,200. In terms of occupancy, I've been working with Amazon to better understand their projected date to begin to essentially start what's called tenant fit out. It's essentially arranging the interior of their space with their equipment, their human resources, their physical operations. So to date, it's evident that they're not going to be in for the 2022 holiday season as they had initially planned and stated. As with any project within our IDA, my charge as a director here is to monitor these projects for compliance and report back to the board. The project is fully compliant. We will continue to monitor it and work with Amazon. As an aside, if you research, the sales of Amazon in the last couple of quarters and through corporate real estate trade publications, Amazon is beginning to research, and reevaluate their footprint all over the United States in terms of where they maintain their operations. So there is potential risk here. The intent of Amazon at this point is to support this community. They have conveyed an approach that they want to maintain this operation and support this community. But in effect, they're reevaluating their capital stack and where they, deploy their capital assets. And at this point, Hamburg may be in question. So my role is to work with them and to provide a welcoming environment and all the resources that they need so that they can be successful in Hamburg. So my emotion is to continue to work with Amazon, clearly help them understand what their targets are and what their obligations are as a result of this IDA incentive. But again, to work with them to understand that maintaining in Hamburg and providing and investing in Hamburg is going to ensure successful operations, not only here, but for the company as a whole.
One question.
Yes, sir.
Sir, I heard you here.
I told Andy on the way today, so.
You're awake. The pilot now.
Yes.
Is that Walgreens that's getting the pilot because they're leasing, Amazon's leasing from them, and then has that started yet?
Okay, the pilot that you'd be referencing is the town, county, and school tax. That will effectively, it doesn't start until 2023. So it will ensue in tax year 2023, and that's set by occupancy date. So the occupancy date was after the lock-in date for the assessment. So that starts in 2023, will continue for 10 years. That will essentially benefit Amazon, the tenant. I don't know the lease, I haven't seen the lease, but in a typical commercial real estate lease, the costs of exterior maintenance, the cost of property taxes, the cost of insurance are all deemed operating expenses, and those are charged back to the tenants. So it's essentially for the landlord to pass through. They want to be sure that that bill is paid because they own the site, but they're charging back their tenant.
The reason I asked is because their labor doesn't have to come into 2024. And then it's right, so we got a year's gap there that we're gonna be looking at, that they get pilots and potentially, potentially have no labor there. No
Yes.
operation or anything like that coming off on the pilot. Is that, and the reason I'm asking that, so because of, I read the same report you do. Because there's potential that they might not move forward with that project, is that recoupable? If something doesn't happen on a labor side?
Yeah, I'm looking at Jennifer just to be sure, but yeah, our recapture,
So will we go after the developer or we go after Amazon? Because what both have extensive lawyers.
Correct, but they both made separate promises to spend the money and
Right,
invest in the
right.
community, to hire so many people by the 2-year date.
Right.
So if they don't meet those requirements, they have defaulted on their obligations, and the agency would go back and recapture
Okay,
as needed, depending as to well.
so our risk then, I'm just trying to assess the financial thing and looking at it. So our risk is for 1 year then, because they potentially don't have to have labor until March of 2024. So that first year could be, community could see nobody there, but yet they're getting the tax break. Just so we understand as a board.
And that 2 year is standard on every project.
Okay, no, I'm not arguing the legal. I just want to make sure that I understand. So when somebody comes up to me, or Janet or anybody say, hey, there's nobody at Amazon, we're giving them a tax break. What the hell's going on? You know? So at least we have a good answer. Okay, thank you.
Yes, Andy.
Just to clarify on that, so even that during that year, correct me if I'm wrong, please. The taxes received by the town of Hamburg, even with the pilot program with 0 people working there, is more than it was getting as a vacant lot.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Much more, right?
Yeah.
And even more so, the special districts,
Yes.
the sewer, the
Okay.
fire district. Those districts are now gonna be paid on the assessed value of the property. Whereas now they're getting pretty much nothing
Mhm.
for the
They were
fire
getting nothing.
district. And I do believe that the fire tax itself is $75,000.
Yeah, I don't know. It was,
75, 77, something.
These are all
It was
talking, these are all talking points like that
It was significant.
for our community, because the community, obviously, you know, I've got quite a few questions on it. So at least we have the talking points as a executive board. You know, they're getting this, this, and this, and
With 0 people working there, right?
right, yeah, I know.
After 2023. This special district required alone, but I don't know the number,
Right.
is getting X.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, yeah,
And people complain about projects, and I'm a stalker of the town website. And I can pull up any one of your tax bills on my desktop in the blink of an eye. And I like to print those tax bills out, and say, you tell me they're not paying anything. Because it shows all those special districts right on the bill. They are getting a tax bill as well as a pilot.
The special districts have never been abated.
Exactly. And that's a huge windfall to people like the Woodlawn Fire District, the Big Tree Fire District, the different fire districts.
I do have a question about the clawback, if it were to happen. Would that go back to day 1? And recoup anything that from initial construction that was given, let's say in sales tax breaks and so forth? Or does that just go back to the kind of,
That's a determination the board would have to make as to when the default happened and how far back you wanted to fall back.
We just did that when Billy Lee.
Mhm. So not on the sales tax, you know, potentially we were close. But on the pilot, you know, that's where it would impact. You have to remember, you know, and I have, like I said, the intention of Amazon is to maintain their obligations. So I don't want to get knee deep in a clawback determination as of yet, but we have an investment that, you know, involved labor of over roughly $13.5 million that's money in the pockets of men and women, you know, working in the construction industry in Western New York. So there is an asset that is at the site. So that there was, you know, to date, you know, this project has been successful. I think our biggest issue is the success of the project to date, the fact that this building was built in 11 months. 180,000 square foot building in today's,
Went too quick.
you know, in today's all familiar supply chain issues and delays. The developer has exceeded, not only met, but exceeded every obligation to this industrial development agency. So, you know, it's successful. It's a burden, I guess, to say the least, because it's so prominent and people see it. But these are important facts to convey. You know, you are all acting as a fiduciary here, and I know you know, you endure a burden with no compensation. So it's my charge that I need to monitor these things and report back to you and take action necessary. You know, in summary, this has been productive to the fact that every dollar of incentive that you provided through your mechanisms in state law we've received $9 of economic benefit to the community. That's a good project. There's, and we're just beginning. So.
That'll get better, right? Assuming Amazon does.
Yeah.
And that number's going to improve.
And honestly, if this was, Joe's Automotive or Stan's Sewer Shop, we wouldn't be having this conversation. The conversation is taking place because the name of the proposed tenant is Amazon.
Correct.
That's the bottom
That's
line.
correct. With any project, my job is to cultivate the development, create the environment where these operators will be successful. Same thing I'm gonna do for Joe's Auto Shop or for Amazon.
I don't want to pick on Carbon Activated because they're finally moving on their project on Jeffrey Boulevard. But we approved that incentive and it took them forever to get going.
Mhm.
But Carbon Activated isn't as sexy as Amazon.
So,
This potential spinoff with job for delivery and so forth.
Yeah.
Is going to be,
We're gonna sit back and.
I'm not sitting back.
No, I mean, you're
Motivation
doing your
is
job,
to-
but we as a board just need to be patient.
Yeah.
And if it comes to the point where we have to take action, we'll be ready to take action.
Great, thank you.
But at least the facts are, that's the key.
My accomplishment.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, next item, Mission Hills Developer LLC. So this is phase 4 of this development. The IDA, not to get into too much, has supported other developments at this site. I'm going to go through the resolution. If it is moved, then we can open to question and further discussion. Bear with me, Cam. Resolution of the Town of Hamburg Industrial Development Agency authorizing Mission Hills Developer LLC to construct, install, and equip 55 two-bedroom senior housing units and a community center on Camp Road, Town of Hamburg, as agent for the agency for lease to the agency and subsequent lease back to the lessee and to take other action. Whereas Mission Hills Developer LLC, the lessee, has entered into negotiations with officials of the Town of Hamburg Industrial Development Agency, the agency with respect to the construction, installation, and equipping of 55 two-bedroom senior housing units and a community center at Camp Road in the Town of Hamburg for lease to the agency and subsequent lease back to the lessee, also known as the project. Whereas the lessee has the assistance contemplated by the agency will include mortgage tax abatement, sales tax exemption on any materials and or equipment purchased for incorporation into project, and real property tax abatement in accordance with existing agency uniform tax exemption policy and guidelines. And whereas the lessee has submitted an eligibility questionnaire and other materials and information to the agency to initiate the accomplishment of the above. Whereas the agency has, after giving all required notices, held a public hearing on the project pursuant to section 859-A of General Municipal Law, and whereas the eligibility questionnaire sets forth certain information with respect to the lessee, including the following: that the lessee desires agency assistance with respect to the construction, installation, and equipping of 55 two-bedroom senior housing units and a community center at Camp Road in the Town of Hamburg for lease to the agency and subsequent lease back to the lessee. If the assistance is granted, the lessee anticipates creating 1 full-time employee and 2 part-time employees at the project location in the Town of Hamburg within 2 years following the completion of the project. That the project will result in substantial capital improvement and there will be no adverse disruption of existing employment at facilities of a similar nature in the Town of Hamburg. If agency assistance is disapproved, the lessee would have to scale back the project, negatively impacting future growth in New York, and that therefore agency assistance is necessary to encourage the lessee to proceed with the project in the Town of Hamburg. Now, therefore, the Town of Hamburg Industrial Development Agency hereby resolves as follows. Section 1, the agency determines that the acquisition, construction, equipping, and installation of the project and the financing or assistance thereof by the agency pursuant to the New York State Industrial Development Agency Act will promote and is authorized by and will be in furtherance of the policy of the state as set forth in said act. The agency further hereby determines, on the basis of the eligibility questionnaire and supplemental information furnished by the lessee as follows. Would not have financed or otherwise assisted the project except to induce the location of the project in the area to be served by the project as there is a demonstrable need for the project. That agency financing or other assistance is reasonably necessary to promote economic development and to induce the lessee to proceed with the project. There will be no substantial adverse disruption of existing employment or facilities of a similar nature to the project in such area. The project will allow the lessee to expand its business in the town of Hamburg. The project will create additional employment and provide substantial capital investment. The agency further determines on the basis of the lessee's eligibility questionnaire that the project as represented is reasonably necessary to provide the purposes of the act, subject to the verification and confirmation of such representations prior to the lease with a mortgage or lease only transaction. And the project is an integral part of the lessee's plan to proceed with the project in the town of Hamburg. The lessee is authorized to initiate the construction, installation, and equipping of 55 two-bedroom senior housing units and a community center at Camp Road in the town of Hamburg for lease to the agency and subsequent lease back to the lessee for a total project cost not to exceed $12,193,011. Subject to obtaining all the required approvals from the town of Hamburg and other involved government agencies, and to advance such funds as may be necessary to accomplish such purchases. The agency is hereby authorized to enter into such agreements with the lessee as the chairman, vice chairman, executive director, or other officer may deem necessary to accomplish the above. The lessee is authorized to make goods and purchases of goods and services relating to the project that would otherwise be subject to New York State sales and local sales and use tax in the amount up to $5,480,861.50, which may result in New York State and local sales and use tax exemption benefits not to exceed $479,575.38. The agency may consider any request by the lessee for increases in the amount of sales and use tax benefits authorized by the agency upon being provided with appropriate documentation detailing the additional purchases of property or services necessary for the completion of the project. Any expenses incurred by the agency with respect to the project and financing thereof shall be paid by the lessee. By acceptance thereof, the lessee agrees to pay such expenses and further agrees to indemnify the agency, its members, directors, officers, employees, and agents, and to hold the agency and such persons harmless against the claims for losses, damage or injury, or any expenses or damages incurred as a result of action taken by or on behalf of the agency in good faith with respect to the project and financing thereof. The agency authorizes and approves real property tax abatement benefits structured through a 7-year pilot estimated to provide $506,576.18 in real property tax abatement benefits, and resulting in estimated total payments in lieu of taxes of $256,553.64 over the term of the pilot agreement. The agency hereby authorizes and approves that the value of the mortgage to be placed upon the facility shall not exceed $12,193,011, and that the mortgage tax exemption benefit shall not exceed $91,450. Almost done. The resolution shall take effect immediately and shall continue in full force and effect for 1 year from the date hereof, and on or after such 1-year anniversary, the agency at its option may terminate the effectiveness of this resolution, except with respect to the obligations of the lessee pursuant to sections 12, 13, 14, 17 of this resolution, which shall survive any expiration or termination, or allow the lessee additional time which to close the transactions contemplated by this resolution based upon affirmative actions taken by the lessee to complete such transactions. Upon any allowance of additional time to close, the agency may charge the lessee an extension of fee in accordance with the agency's fee schedule. Adopted August 17th, 2022. Okay, thank you.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Palmer. On the question,
I'd like to make a motion to amend
motion to amend,
section 15. Well, I need a second.
Whole second.
Thank-
Which one you going?
Section 15.
Okay.
I'd like to amend this resolution is subject to compliance with all building and zoning requirements, including chapter 109-11, comma, affirmatively furthering fair housing, comma, of the code of the town of Hamburg. And then in section 18, include in section 18 where it's section 12, 13, and 17, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 17. So two changes, one in section 15, one in section 18.
So on that amendment, is it point of question right now?
Yeah, it's been something.
Okay.
no, we have to move
Move as amended.
as, so we first need
Yeah, but
to,
you could still.
You can have a question on the
You
amendment.
can, if you
Oh,
have a
okay.
question, you can talk on the number.
Okay, I would just have a question. So when you say the resolution is subject to compliance with all local building and zoning requirements, plus the
I want it to
affordability.
be very clear.
That's in there, but
That's in there.
if it's legally found that this project is not under that compliance, they're fine to go proceed
Then I'll
as.
make a motion to table the entire thing.
No, I'm saying I'm going with your amendment.
Right.
But according to the project, this amendment that they sign or this resolution, if it's not compliance for them to have to be within that law, they don't have to.
I think it's pretty clear in the code that we were all sent that they have to comply.
I'm not a lawyer, and the only lawyer I heard back was, I don't think so.
So. I agree. Janet, I'm on board with this 100%. I was looking at section 13 when you brought it up. The provisions of general municipal law, and maybe we could put in there an all Hamburg codes law. Shall
That's
apply
what it says
that.
in 15.
Yeah, on set 13.
That language is at section 15.
Oh, okay. Okay, so that's the same language, because that really covers, it's all provisions. I just like the word that provisions, the provisions of section 875 of general municipal law and all Hamburg codes shall apply to this project. It's kind of, you know what I'm saying? I know it's redundant, maybe, but
It is redundant, but if that gives you greater comfort,
I mean, just this one sentence in the, it is a town of Hamburg law.
Right.
Which was intended to ensure affordable housing within newly built rental projects. This is being newly built. This isn't existing. This is not there. This is just on those 55 units and the clubhouse. And the way the law reads, the town of Hamburg code reads, that means 6 units of 55 must be made available to low to moderate income.
The only thing I would say is that if the developer's conversations with the town, it's found otherwise, they're with
There
the.
was no conversation between the town of Hamburg and the developer.
Yeah, but I mean, now that they get this happen, they'll be talking just like any other zoning. And building inspector conversation and hammer out the details. It's like figuring out whether they can use number 1 stone or number 2 stone and how much they can use and what's according to the code in the town of Hamburg.
Just so I'm clear, because I'm sorry, I missed the hearing, but I think I'm catching on to the discussion. The only reason this is in question is because they had this project approved so long ago before this particular law was put in.
you're correct.
Correct.
Yeah, right. So was there a statement made at that time when the law was put in that any
Any
projects pre-approved
projects-
were subject?
It's upon the application of the building permit. So the
Technically, the
building
project
permit
permits them.
still has not been approved.
Oh, okay.
Planning
All
has
right.
approved this.
The issue, not a-
Building department has not issued permits yet.
So
So
that,
the intent of the law is for all newly shovel in the ground.
Right, regardless of when the idea was
Doesn't matter
concocted
when
and
the
put
plan
before
was
a
made.
lot, yeah. So,
Doesn't matter when planning approved it. Look at the Wetzel development down across from the golf course.
Right.
That was approved
Right.
how many years ago? It was in litigation for how many years?
Right.
Just because planning approves something, doesn't mean you run to the building department and get your permit. Especially in a phased in development. Laws change. Situations change. Then you have to follow the new laws. I mean, you can still build your project, but you gotta build it and follow.
I don't think I'm disagreeing with that at all. All I'm saying is that in their discussions. I would have that discussion if I was a developer, for sure.
Jennifer, is it okay to, if the developer would like to speak on this question, is that?
Absolutely, but I have one question. What would happen if a town makes the determination that this law does not apply to the project? This, my understanding is this one still wants the intent of that section to apply.
The opinion of the man who. Of the department that enforces this is that they must do
Okay,
it.
okay,
If they went out,
Maybe we need to
But-
have a motion to table the entire thing. Until we have definitive in writing from both legal and Chris Hall.
I like your. I may speak, section 13, forget it, but I like if you put section 15. And I think, if you went forward with this resolution, on just putting all that language in that you added to it. If there's a change. Coming down, then we'd have to revisit the resolution, which we can do. Going forward. I've been just saying, because Jennifer, if they bring up that they're gonna bypass them on this. On the housing, the board has a right to come back and look at all the pilot agreements and everything,
We just,
reconsideration.
if the applicant doesn't do what they agreed to do,
Right,
yes, but
yeah.
you can't just change your mind.
No, but I'm just saying, we're not changing our mind, but if we have the language in there. That they must file all things, and all of a sudden they're not following the code because they get a special exemption. We should have a right to know about that, right? And then if we feel as a board that. They went around the language that we have in 15. Then we can,
Right,
discuss
they
it as a
meet
board,
their obligations.
right?
But I guess there's a difference between getting like a special exemption versus
Right,
sort of what you were talking
What the
about.
law says.
You're questioning about is if. For whatever reason, it's determined later on that the law doesn't apply to this project. And so then, this, just saying including. That law, if they're following law because it doesn't apply to them. So they don't have to do anything, then I don't know, could we, like I said, it's a question.
I don't think
Be
that'd
able
be
to,
fair.
would that just be us changing our mind?
Right,
then
you
versus-
can't change your mind once you vote on
But
it.
I mean, the language, I mean, I'm
If they
sorry.
fail
go
to
ahead.
meet their obligations, that's different, but you just can't go along in a month and add additional.
I
we
know,
didn't add the conditional, the language itself said that they have to follow that law. Which she
Well, that's my-
proposed.
That's my
What
question.
Janet proposed is the language itself said this specifically law has to be followed.
But what if the town council determines that that law doesn't apply to the project?
Then
Well,
they
then
all
I-
avoided our resolution.
And that's how they follow that.
Then we need to write the language a little bit different.
Well,
Then we need to table until
We're
we
gonna
have a
table
written opinion from the town.
I think that's the best.
David, what do you
I-
think is the best?
I think maybe tabling it just to get that solid opinion, because I know you're saying that Chris Hall, you're believing his opinion is that the intent would would apply to
He
them.
put it in writing.
Didn't he say there's no, I thought his response was, there is no opinion.
His response said, there is no opinion. It is a law which is intended to ensure affordable housing within newly built rental projects. See statute below. I mean, there doesn't need to be an opinion because it's the law.
Can I interject for a second?
Yes, please.
The building department will issue a building permit. And in that building permit will be a list of requirements that are gonna be required to achieve a certificate of occupancy. If they state that we have to have 5 units of affordable housing. And I was gonna argue 5.5, but it's supposed to be 5.5, and how do you have a half a unit? And I would say be kind to us, because taking these units out of service for affordable housing is an extraordinary expense. These units that are being developed. There's not 5 special units set aside for that component of affordable housing. In fact, so these units are roughly 1,390 square feet. Some have 2-car garages, some have 1-car garages. Some of the people that will come there that will have an affordable component won't have enough money to pay for the rent. So they're not what they call income qualified. The person that's coming there to live, to get a rent in this new apartment complex, which will be a little over $1,000 a month, has to have the income to support to live there, which is our job to qualify those individuals that come into that project. So as the economy moves forward and rents are increasing, the limit that the person that can live there is also rising on an annual basis, which is published by HUD. So if we're building roughly 1,300 square foot units, the units that we should have on a set aside, if this is the intent of the law of the town of Hamburg, then HUD says that we should only have units that are only 600 square feet, you know what I mean, designed for those 5 component units. But that term, there's a term in the law called steering. You can't steer a person towards a particular unit. There's the rule called the next available unit law. So let's say we start out construction and we pre-lease 55 units. Then I have someone who comes in 2 years later that's affordable. That next unit that comes available would have to be that person's unit when that unit expires. Do you know what I mean? It's called the next available unit law. So
Okay, so
so
they're
if
all
I
the
have a
same.
market rate person come in and there's nobody on my waiting list, that person would then be market rate. Then someone comes in behind them and says, we need an affordable unit. The next unit that comes available inside that unit, if they're still around, would be that affordable unit. That's kind of how this law is enforced through housing tax credit law that we have to follow. So I am an affordable developer. I understand the law. And if the town says I gotta build 5 units or 6 units, we will comply with the law. Simple as that.
So that language we're proposing, I assume that you want to move this forward.
Yes,
So the language we're proposing in section 15, you have no problem with?
I don't have any problem with whatsoever.
And Janet, you're comfortable with the opinion you received from that department?
Yes.
Okay. So
If this is all on record, it's all taped, everybody just so everybody knows up front, the words have been said. Now that's,
So if it's on record, I just want to say one other thing.
go ahead.
And someone then should, in the enforcing department, make sure that everybody that are playing in this game now is fully up to snuff. Because there are projects that are out there that are not compliant. That's all I'm gonna say.
And
And they're in court, the one non-compliant,
Which one would that be?
Foster.
Okay. That's
They're
it.
in court.
I think
that's a good point to make. to
There's
the-
litigation and the Oaks are compliant.
The Oaks are compliant. I know that for a fact.
The Oaks are compliant, Foster Brook is not, and litigation is in place between the town and
If
Foster.
you'd like to speak on that, we have town board meetings. That's a great place to speak on something like that.
Yeah.
Because they're the code enforcers.
Yeah, I've been doing this.
I know.
I'm an affordable housing developer for
I
28
thank you for it.
years.
We appreciate it.
Yeah.
yes,
just the intent of, I just think it's only fair for us as a board and the town, honestly, to make it very plain of who isn't, and be able to put I'd say, they need to have the full intent of the law and clearly stated for these developers, because really, when there's confusion, money's not invested. You can see that as basic as the stock market, okay? So there should be absolutely no confusion going forward, and I think this is probably the only project that's been pre-approved before the law and has kind of had phase in Hamburg. Is that a true statement? I think it
Yeah.
is.
We're the only one in front of the IDA.
Okay.
So,
No, when the Oaks came before us. Way back when. They knew this was the law,
Right,
and
absolutely.
they cited that as part of their application.
I just see this as a gray zone. I think I don't like gray, so we just need to be perfectly clear for people that are investing $13 million. What is expected of them.
Yeah, almost 14 million.
There you go.
We're $6,000 short, 14 million for invested things.
And thank you for the investment.
You're welcome.
okay, so I just wanna to clarify,
What's on the table right now?
so.
The motion to amend was chapter 15.
Section
to
15.
include, after requirements, period, to include chapter 109-11, comma, affirmatively furthering fair housing, comma, of the code of the town of Hamburg, period. And then in the last section, section 18, to include after 14, sections 12, 13, 14, 15, and 17.
You to reference that section.
So that's a motion on the table that's been
Yeah.
seconded.
The motion to amend.
So moved.
No, it was.
It's already been
It's already
Oh, you
been
moved.
moved.
Already
Okay.
Now you take a vote.
Janet and Reynolds. Okay, all questions answered,
Thank you.
all in favor?
Aye.
Bless you. Opposed? Abstained? Okay, resolution adopted. Thank you.
Now,
As
now
amended.
we have to vote on the resolution.
Amended
as
resolution.
Oh, okay.
Very good, Jen.
Sorry.
All the rubbish up in here. I love it.
Motion to vote on the resolution as amended.
So move.
Second. Oh, please
Mr.
go ahead.
Palmer.
Chairman.
It's all yours.
Chairman.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Carried. Thank you. Thanks for your investment.
Thanks, Dave.
I appreciate it very much.
Any unfinished business? I do not have any. Privilege of the floor, executive session. Motion to adjourn the August 17th, 2022 Hamburg IDA meeting at 8:32 a.m. Thank you, Jamel. Thank you, Tom. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
We go home now?
No, yeah.
Sure. Okay, Hamburg, New York Land Development Corp. meeting, August 17th, 2022. Roll call, Hall.
Here.
Hutchison.
Here.
McGregor, Plar.
Here.
Moses. Palmer.
Here.
Perkins.
Here.
Bukowski.
Here.
Reynolds.
I'm here too.
Wentz is excused. Motion to open the August meeting at 8:33 a.m.
So moved.
Thank you, Janet. Second. Thanks, Kim. Motion to approve the meeting minutes from July 20th, 2022.
So moved.
Thank you, Cam. Thank you, Bob. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Here. Financial report from July 31st, 2022. Mr. Reynolds. please.
Our Land Development Corporation had income of $494.01 due to interest on deposits and CDs. All other activity is not available because